Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're taking a close look at one specific official document. It's from the U.S. government, and it's all about international environmental agreements.
That's right. The title is pretty clear. Putting America First in Environmental Agreements. It's an official order.
And our job today really is just to unpack this document. We want to understand its core message, see what actions it actually ordered, using only what's written right there in the source.
Exactly. No outside opinions, no commentary, just focusing on what the document itself says and directs. It's about understanding the policy from its own perspective.
Okay, let's get started. Section 1 is called Purpose. What's the main goal stated right at the beginning?
Well, the document says the aim is to grow the U.S. economy, keep jobs going for Americans, and also be a leader in global environmental protection. It presents these as things that should happen, at the same time.
Simultaneously. Okay. And the document seems pretty confident about the U.S. having already done this.
It does. It makes the case that the U.S. has successfully grown its economy and reduced pollution air, water, greenhouse gases. It mentions all three without really hurting private businesses too much.
And it even says this should be a model for others.
Yeah, that's a key point in there. It says this track record should basically show other countries how it's done.
Right. So the U.S. way is presented as the successful way, but then it kind of shifts gears and criticizes some recent international agreements. What's the problem with them, according to this document?
Well, the text claims these agreements do not reflect our country's values or our contributions. That's the phrasing. And interestingly, it adds that they tend to steer American taxpayer dollars to countries that do not require or merit financial assistance.
Okay, so not aligned with U.S. values or contributions and misdirecting money. That leads pretty directly into Section 2, which is called Policy. What's the core policy announced here?
The main policy, stated very clearly, is to put the interests of the United States and the American people first in international agreements, especially ones that might affect the economy.
Put the interests first. Simple enough. And is there a condition for these agreements, a test they have to pass?
Yes, absolutely. The policy states these agreements must not unduly or unfairly burden the United States. That's the key condition laid out.
Okay, so that's the why and the what. Let's get into the how. Section 3, implementation. This is where the specific actions are ordered, right?
Exactly. This is the action part. It starts right away in Section 3A with an order for the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
And the very first thing they're told to do?
Is to immediately submit formal written notification that the U.S. is withdrawing from the Paris Agreement. That's the big one under the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC.
Immediate notification. Paris Agreement withdrawal. Does it say who gets the note?
Yep. It specifies the UN Secretary General, who acts as the depositary for the agreement.
And there's a really important point about when this withdrawal takes effect, according to the document itself.
Yes, this is quite specific. The document states the U.S. will consider its withdrawal and any attendant obligations to be effective immediately upon this provision of notification. That phrase, effective immediately, is very deliberate here.
Effective immediately? Wow, okay. That's quite direct. But it's not just the Paris Agreement being targeted for withdrawal, is it? Section 3B seems broader.
That's right, it goes further. Section 3B also orders the ambassador to immediately submit written formal notification of withdrawal from, and this is the quote, any agreement, pact, accord, or similar commitment made under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change.
Any agreement, pact, accord. So it's sweeping. It covers potentially more than just Paris under that UNFCCC umbrella.
It seems intended to be comprehensive within that framework, yes, based on the text.
Okay, so withdrawing from agreements. What about the money side? You mentioned taxpayer dollars earlier.
Section 3C addresses that head on. It directs the ambassador, working with the Secretary of State and Treasury Secretary, to immediately cease or revoke any purported financial commitment made by the United States under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change.
Cease or revoke. Again, the word immediately. And does it target any specific financial plan?
It does. Section 3E is very explicit. It says the U.S. International Climate Finance Plan is revoked and rescinded immediately.
Revoked and rescinded immediately.
And it doesn't stop there. It tells the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, to issue guidance within 10 days for the rescission of all frozen funds connected to that plan.
So pull out of the agreements, kill a specific finance plan, and claw back the money associated with it. That's what the document orders.
That seems to be the sequence of actions laid out, yes.
The document also seems big on reporting back, making sure these things actually happen.
Right. Section 3D covers the first report. After the withdrawal and finance cessation stuff is done, the ambassador, Secretary of State, and Treasury Secretary have to certify a report.
And what's that report supposed to cover?
It needs to outline any further action required to achieve the policy objectives set forth in Section 2, which, remember, was putting U.S. interests first.
So basically tell us what else needs doing to make sure we're fully America first as defined here. Where does that report go?
To the Assistance to the President for Economic Policy and National Security Affairs.
Okay. And then Section 3F seems to pull in a lot more players.
It really does. It's quite a list. You've got Secretaries of State, Treasury, Commerce, HHS, Energy, Agriculture, the EPA Administrator, heads of USAID, the Development Finance Corporation, Millennium Challenge Corporation, U.S. Trade and Development Agency, the Export-Import Bank, several others.
A wide range of departments and agencies. What do they have to report on within 30 days?
Their report has to detail their specific actions taken to revoke or rescind policies that were implemented to advance the International Climate Finance Plan.
Ah, so it connects back to that plan revoked in 3E. It's not just canceling the main plan, it's making sure all the agencies undo their internal policies that supported it.
Exactly. It shows the order trying to reach down into agency-level implementation based on the text.
And finally, there's Section 3G. This one seems focused on energy policy.
Yes. It gives a new direction for departments involved in international energy agreements. Going forward, they have to prioritize economic efficiency, the promotion of American prosperity, consumer choice, and fiscal restraint in their foreign energy discussions.
Economic efficiency, American prosperity, consumer choice, fiscal restraint. 4 clear priorities mandated by the document.
Very specific guidelines there for future energy talks.
Okay, and then Section 4, general provisions. This looks like pretty standard stuff you find in these orders.
Yeah, mostly boilerplate legal language. Section 4A says the order doesn't override existing laws or OMB's budget role. 4B says it has to be done legally and with available money. And 4C says it doesn't give anyone grounds to sue the government. Pretty standard disclaimers.
Right. So if we step back and look at the whole document, just based on what's inside it, what picture does it paint?
Well, it clearly states a policy of prioritizing U.S. domestic interests, particularly economic ones, alongside environmental goals. It positions the U.S. as already successful in this. Then, it mandates immediate, concrete actions, withdrawal from Paris and related UNFCCC commitments, cancellation of a specific climate finance plan and funding, and a shift in priorities for international energy policy.
All laid out very directly in this single document.
It's all there. The stated reason, the policy, the specific instructions. Reading the document itself gives you that blueprint.
What really jumps out at you when you see it laid out like this, focusing just on the text?
For me, it's the immediacy and specificity of the implementation steps. It moves very quickly from the policy statement to ordering these concrete actions, immediately submit, immediately cease or revoke, revoked and rescinded immediately. It's not just saying what the policy is, it's spelling out how to execute it administratively, right down to agency reporting.
Understanding that precise language, revoke, rescind, immediately, really sharpens the focus on what was being ordered, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It makes the policy shift described in the document much more tangible.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with this, based only on what we've read in this document. It emphasizes the U.S. as a model, it prioritizes domestic prosperity, and it orders withdrawal from key international climate structures like the UNFCCC agreements and associated finance. So, according to the framework in this document, what does a policy that puts the interests of the United States and the American people first really imply for how future international cooperation on big global environmental challenges might work?
That's a really interesting question to ponder, sticking strictly to the perspective and actions outlined within this specific text.
Definitely something to think about. Thank you for helping us break this down today.
My pleasure. It's important to see what these documents actually say.
We hope you found this deep dive into the source material useful.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.